Afternoon. Okay, I'm going to start before we get to our forecast, as I did last year, with just a quick review of some of the significant milestones that occurred in the past year in our community, things that we call game changers. First of all, last April, the first Boeing 787 made in South Carolina by South Carolinians rolled out of Boeing's Charleston facility, and what a celebration. Just a few months later, Boeing delivered that aircraft to its first customer, Air India. Our World Trade Center director recently joined a group of business and community leaders from Japan visiting Boeing's facility, and it reminded us of the global reach that we are now a part of in our region. Boeing welcomes international customers practically every day at their North Charleston facility, and that fact will continue to build on Charleston's internationally recognized brand. Which leads us to another very significant event of the year, when Condé Nast named Charleston not only the #1 destination in the United States, but in the world. And certainly golf fans from around the world were tuned on Charleston last August as the PGA Championship was played at Kiowa. And while they didn't start service until a couple of weeks ago, JetBlue announced in 2012 that they would begin service to Charleston, and we welcomed them on February 28th. What all this means is that we are on the global stage, and events like these, along with rankings that we continue to receive, such as Milken's, on our economy, will continue to bring change and opportunity. So let's see how they're impacting our region's economic performance. As we have in the past, I'm going to very briefly recap the forecast from last year and compare that to the actual performance, as well as give you the outlook for the next 2 years. So starting with labor force and employment, I think you're going to be impressed. Our prediction last year was right on the mark. We predicted 1.5% growth in employment, and that's exactly what happened. Going forward, we're again forecasting very conservative job growth of 1.5% in 2013 and less than that for 2014. Our reasons for such slow growth is really due to cuts in defense spending that we believe are going to impact our region. And while we have had some significant job announcements in recent months, the hiring of those jobs is actually a little further out. Employment will grow at a faster rate than the labor force, resulting in a decline in our unemployment rate. Our forecast is for unemployment to drop from 5.9% to 5.9% by 2014 from the current rate of about 7%. Looking at home sales, last year we thought there'd be about 9,400 sold, and they were actually about 10,500. And the average price of those homes sold were much better than we predicted, which is good news for the industry. We're very optimistic about our region's housing market going forward. Our forecast is for home sales to increase by 9% this year and another 5% the following year. We also think the average sales price will continue to rise by 3% over each of the next 2 years. And new numbers that were just released a couple of days ago by the Realtors Association show average sales of price of homes is up 5.6% in the last 12 months, and sales are up 15%. So 2013 is off to a very strong start for the region's housing industry. The region's residential building market is also making a strong comeback in both the single-family and multifamily markets. Last year, we did not predict the growth that actually occurred in this residential building sector. The multifamily market is our region's hot spot, with apartment vacancies now averaging about 94%, and lots of new apartments are under construction. In fact, there are currently about 2,600 multifamily units under construction, and we predict that there are more to come. We see this sector continuing to do well over the next couple of years as demand increases and large new developments such as Nexton, Carnes Crossroad, Carolina Park, and others across the region move forward. Looking at retail trade, we predicted moderate growth in retail sales last year, and really the numbers that came in show us that it was essentially flat compared to the year before. We think, though, that with the recovery of the housing market locally and the continued health of our tourism market, Well, both of those will help boost local retail sales by 2.7% for each of the next 2 years, mirroring what we expect to happen on the national level. This is my favorite graph this year because it shows a great growth curve that our port is on. The Port of Charleston had a great year in 2012 with the total number of TEUs handled increasing by more than 9% and break bulk cargo increased by more than 30%. This graph, by the way, is just TEU containers. A focused growth strategy to attract new customers and business along with a strong export markets of manufactured goods from the United States attributed to increased volumes. The expansion of BMW exports through the Port of Charleston also helped our Ports Authority to handle increased trade in 2012. Our forecast calls for container volumes to increase in each of the next 2 years as the Port of Charleston begins to regain its position among our country's top ports. Charleston's current position of being able to accommodate the larger post-Panamax ships should also help increase volumes, especially as the post-45 harbor deepening project continues to move forward. Air passenger traffic is one of those indicators that our Economic Outlook Board changed when we reviewed the forecast because we knew of the arrival of JetBlue. And you can see in this graph the Southwest effect, as we call it, that kicked in 2011. JetBlue will bring more modest growth in passenger volume over the next 2 years, and we forecast passenger traffic to continue to increase at about 3% per year for the next 2 years. One of the impacts of all that increased passenger activity and increased flights are just 2 of the reasons that we need to update our current passenger terminal at Charleston International. The next number of years are going to be very interesting navigating through an airport terminal that's also under construction. But the end result is going to be well worth it, and think of the impression visitors to Charleston will have arriving at this gorgeous, remodeled, modern facility versus, well, let's just say our current airport terminal looks a little tired. Our last graph is for the hotel industry, and what revenue per room, or RevPAR, is the gauge used to measure financial performance of properties. This past year, the region's visitor industry experienced a great year from attraction attendance, hotel occupancy, and the overall number of visitors to our market. RevPAR was higher than we predicted last year, increasing by 5.6% compared to our forecast of 3.5%. In spite of a lot of new room inventory coming on the market and a hit to the travel industry in the area of defense travel, we still see the next 2 years as healthy ones as our visitor industry begins to reap the benefits of being ranked the #1 destination on the globe. I want to close with just a couple of thoughts of challenges facing our region that we need to solve if we're going to have the long-term sustainable economic growth we all want. And Jeff did not write this for me, but you're going to hear a familiar theme. Last year, we kicked off our Accelerate Greater Charleston campaign at this event. Thanks to you, we successfully raised $4 million through Accelerate Greater Charleston, funding that would allow our region to make significant strides in developing, attracting, and retaining talent, in accelerating innovation and entrepreneurial development, and in significantly increasing the voice of business and advocating for needed infrastructure and a regulatory environment that supports business growth and expansion. You'll be hearing more in the coming months about the new Cradle to Career initiative that will align our region around a set of goals for achieving success in education. You'll also be hearing lots more from the Chamber on the EDGE academies that are being implemented in area high schools, modeled after very successful programs around the country that have dramatically increased high school graduation rates. And you'll be hearing from us as we release our 10-year talent development strategy from our newly formed Talent Council that's currently under development. I'm very proud that the Chamber had a significant hand in moving County Council forward in December on the completion of 526. But 526 isn't the only infrastructure project we need to build. We have a list of at least 15 more that are top priorities. From harbor deepening to improvements around the airport and Boeing, we have significant infrastructure needs, and we must keep pushing to find local, state, and federal funding solutions. And lastly, whether sequestration goes away or not, the Department of Defense is facing major cuts, and those are going to impact Charleston. Joint Base Charleston pumps billions of dollars into the local economy, and there are nearly 30,000 jobs associated with the military, including Spay-War defense contractors. So we must keep focused on retaining and expanding our military presence, and also on continuing to diversify our region's economy through entrepreneurial development, through implementing the export strategy our World Trade Center is developing in partnership with Brookings, and through a continued focus on growing the clusters identified in Opportunity Next. Our 2013 and 2014 forecast shows us economic growth has indeed returned to our region. Now we must tackle these issues of infrastructure and talent, as well as retaining and expanding our growth clusters. If we do that effectively, our region's future is very bright. Thank you.